about the Nepal change in government and the Gen Z collective. We're also here to talk about Indigenous feminisms and the grassroots movement of collective resistance. So this is going to be a back and forth dialogue between Sabnam and I. I had the pleasure and the honor of meeting Sabnam 2 years ago at the United Nations Permanent Forum, and we have maintained contact. This is another example of global connection and global solidarity. So Sabnam, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'd like to hear about how you were inspired to found the focus on Indigenous girls. And if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the United Nations.
Okay, Fiafullah everyone. My name is Sabnam Lama, and I'm so thrilled to be here, especially with Claire, with Indigenous Environmental Network and Cultural Survival Work, because I have personally, and just like collectively with my own Indigenous girls group back in Nepal, we have always looked forward, we'd always followed, and we would like just be inspired with whatever we could find in the internet that all of you like post and talk about. So my name is Sabnam Lama. I am from Tamsaling, Tamang Nation of Tamang people back in Nepal, and I'm a 23-year-old young Indigenous woman, and I'm in like my final undergrad. Uh, uh, in the final year of my undergrad degree, and I think it's gonna be a long if I talk about how we started Focus for Indigenous Girls, but I think it started with a huge and this uncomfortable relationship with your own identity and your heritage living in Nepal, because me and most of the girls, we are in Kathmandu for like better education, for better opportunities, and because of that and because of a lot of modernization, a lot of nationalism that there is, and a lot of intentional and hidden efforts to make our heritage, make our experiences invisible, it's very difficult for us to navigate and understand that what it really means, and just everything that there is around. So I grew up in Kathmandu, and my experience is something very critical and personally in my experience, and it's very systematic, is my parents who were here in their youth, they came to Kathmandu to work, to have a better life, but they were always shamed in their accent, in their while speaking Nepali. So when me and my brother we were little, my parents intentionally sat together and decided that okay, let's not teach our children our Tamang language, because if they go to school with this accent, they're gonna be bullied, people are gonna make fun of them, and then they're gonna have a very time with education and school and everything, because that's what they experience, and that's how we never learned. And it was always a bit of uncomfortable, because as a youth, as a young person in the city, you would feel like you're not indigenous enough, or like even if you want to learn or wonder about, people would be like, oh, we don't need the language because it's not necessary, it doesn't give you a job, English is better, let's learn Spanish. I think that's more like it gives you more ways to have some productive or like some income. So, and but the other side, your community also ashames you, like, oh, you don't know language, you're like not one of us, and things like that. So there's a lot of like very uncomfortable feeling that you grow up. And also as a young Tamang girl, like everybody appreciates your beauty. Like everybody's like, oh, Tamang girls are very beautiful, this and that. They're very open, they're fun. So in like a bit of summary, so with these experiences, we just are like in a big question mark. And so I am with National Indigenous Women Forum, and in 2019 our older women, Indigenous women, they decided that it's time for intergenerational collaboration to like pass down. So they started Focus for Indigenous Girls. Actually, at that time, it was Forum for Indigenous Girls, and it was a loose network of us Indigenous girls from different background, and we were below 18, so we were very young, adolescent girls, and but it was very difficult because you would attend the capacity building programs, you would attend sessions about UNDRIP, ILO 169, and that just did not work because you're still like, oh, why do I need to learn about my community? It's kind of not necessary, and whatever is this ILO 169, yeah, whatever. So we would like attend the programs, we would sit, we would not be able to connect with it at all, but we would have like a good time. We would have the lunch, we would get the allowance from the organizers. So, and when we returned home, it was like nothing, like we didn't take anything. We're still like, what is Indigenous, why do we need it? So in 2023 was when we decided, okay, let's get organized, and we know that it's important, but we are still not able to make sense of our collective experiences. And actually our experiences, it's not an isolated experience, it's actually systematic and collectively, but we have never ever were provided or have a space to talk about it. So Focus for Indigenous Girls started like that, with like a question itself. Okay, we are Indigenous girls, we have certain experiences, like even like subtle forms of discriminations or like stigmatizations that we ourselves were not able to identify. So first, let's have a space. So let's make FIG like an entry gate, like a space where we can come, and then in the coming years, let's imagine what vision or what future we can have together, what we can work for together. So I think that's a unique and very young girls experience that I bring with FIG, is that we don't know what to do, but we want to figure out. And to figure it out, maybe first we can start with a very safe space to just talk about it, and then make sense of the collective or the systematic thing that there is.
What I really liked about the description of FIG was it was empowerment, but there was also healing in that description. And so I thought that was very powerful. I don't think there's enough emphasis put on the work that we need to do for our own personal growth and for our healing. I feel like being frontline defenders, being feminists, working in a predominantly male-dominated, I don't know if it would be field, but the tracks of the United Nations have been difficult to navigate as Indigenous women, and so I really like the aspect that you emphasized about healing in your organization. And I feel like the youth, we always say the youth are the answers, and I feel like intergenerational work is so important. I feel like it's very important. One aspect of the Indigenous Environmental Network, Indigenous Feminisms, is that we feel like it's our obligation to make room for the youth. The youth are our answers to to the future, but we actually have to take steps to make sure that the door is open. We need to make sure that there is funding accessible and possible for the youth to actually participate in these types of fora and be able to learn what they need to. And I find that the United Nations is very fast-paced, as you know. I mean, we're going on very small hours of sleep. There's always something to do. We're always rushing from, if it isn't the main session where we're giving interventions on the floor, there's side events. So what I think that is really important is, how do you have ideas of how older generations can help with intergenerational work? For example, I feel like bringing you into the delegation and bringing other youth in the delegation was an obligation for my program for Indigenous Feminisms of Environmental Network. I'm just trying to figure out other ways that we can empower, uplift, and give a platform to Indigenous youth. I'm 51, and I'm really excited to be able to start stepping back and getting out of the way for the younger generations to come forward. We talk about Gen Z being they we talk about them being the future. We talk about we have a prophecy about the seventh generation, and you are the seventh generation, that those of the seventh gen will be able to be the answer to the world's chaos. And so if you have ideas of ways that other grassroots organizations can uplift the voices of youth, especially Indigenous women's voices.
So something that I wanted to add was self-determination. Like, yes, even if they initiated first the network, right? But after certain years, after few years, we felt like the ILO 169 trainings, UN RIP, CBD, technical workshops were not working for us. Then okay, thank you so much for the platform that there already is. Now we have found that what actually is missing, so that we can do our own work, like peer-to-peer work. We will figure out what will work the best for us and us as youths collectively. So we'll have figure out our own way. So the thing is, like, yeah, another is to, okay, you provide maybe funds and things like that, then you then leave the youths to self-determine on how to do, because we are experts on, because we can feel like at the present, in our era, in our period, what is necessary or what is not working, or what is needed. So I think that was the key of, like, even initiating FIG. And another thing is, this also comes with Nepal's Gen Z movement, and about how we can do the intergenerational collaboration better. Because when Gen Z movement happened, it was like always tagged as, okay, Gen Z, okay, only Gen Z needs to speak about this, only Gen Z are responsible. So when in September 9, like, the government was toppled down, there was power vacuum for like couple of days, and there were no any experts or seniors or older people trying to step in, also because they did respect and, like, now acknowledge that, okay, now it's the new generation's time, we no, we should not be there. But what happened was, then they left everything to the Gen Zs. Everything to the Gen Zs. And one of my sister, Kabita, said in the month of when the Gen Z protest happened, that because there was a lot of pressure coming to us, and she said, hey guys, like, they didn't ask to be in the leadership role. They didn't had the plan to, like, maybe elect the prime minister from Discord, or like lead the government just the next day. And let's please not throw everything on them, like, okay, it's Gen Z, you do it. It's no, okay, it's your era, you do it. Okay, whatever, we'll just take a back seat. That's not healthy at all, and that's not intergenerational collaboration or like passing down. And I think people are not getting that.
Yes.
So even when maybe we are given funds or any kind of opportunities, there needs to be like a maybe constant check-in in, or like mentoring sessions or things like that, to ensure that, because we might also feel like, okay, I'm given the opportunity, I'm the youth leader, we need to know everything by ourselves, and maybe asking help will make us feel like, oh, they are not ready. At the end, they are like immature. So it's not that. When we need to really break that barrier. So I think these are the things that I really want to say when we talk about actually empowering youth. Like, please, we don't want every responsibility. Let's share.
Yes.
The key thing would be like, no matter who is involved, whatever happens, you keep the youth's agency in it, but you also support. Like, okay, Gen Z want to draft a statement. Are these demands, but you sit and maybe just work around it, but still have their own decisions, whatever that spirit that there is. It doesn't have to be just youth doing their work. So these three things are I think very necessary, and comes from like our hot experience from Nepal.
So, I when I started seeing the news on Al Jazeera about they're calling it the overthrow of the Nepal government. I reached out to you because I had a feeling that you might be
There.
in the mix. And so, can you tell us a little bit about the first day and the following days? Because we were a lot of news did not get to the United States about how there was an uprising in Nepal. And if anything, what we did hear in the United States from media was it was kind of disinformation in that these I believe the narrative are these, these radical youth took over the government. They were violent. And then so there was a narrative that was being put out, especially in the United States, and there was also not a lot. Like that was the only thing I heard. I had to go on other international news sources, and I also was following you, and you were providing updates. So I knew that there was another story from what was being filtered into the United States. Can you tell us a little bit about this story? Because I find this to be the most positive example of hope, resistance, and liberation.
Yeah. So I think, yes, with the media thing, what we have experienced in Nepal is in these like last 7-8 months, like media has, no matter what movement there has been, like media has always been this important third organ of the government, of the nation building process, and they try their best to provide what is the truth or the alternative. But yeah, media has done such a bad work because in the past we could trust media, and now with AI, with lots of forms of media unregulated, and lot of they like media is a lot these days, and media did not do good job in portraying or like setting out the narrative of the Gen Z movement in Nepal. Like sometimes they were like, oh, these Gen Zs did this because of like anti-corruption, or they hated that social media ban. It was not about that at all, and not only about that. So it's important to understand how the protest itself happened. It just happened within like 2 or 3 days that I remember, because there was this Nepo baby trend coming from Indonesia, Philippines, that we're exposing the elite kids of politicians, political leaders who are doing corruption, misusing the money for their own and their families' benefits. So that just happened. That was happening in other countries, and we were like, oh yeah, let's just jump in. And then there were a lot of like, it took over our feed, and then there was like, we need to understand that Gen Z protest was loosely organized by a group. So a group of Gen Zs like just got together and decided like, oh yeah, okay, let's gather on this date and let's do a protest. Let's just march from this point to that point, because that's the legal official route for every protest. And like that happened, and we were like, okay, let's there were a lot of posts for like safety measures, and specifically for students and children. It was like, okay, put on your student uniforms so that the government won't like harm you or like target you. Very critical thing, because after just 2 hours of like the protest, the police, they shot at youths, minors who were in their student uniforms. And I think that was like, that's something like really unbearable, because that should not happen at all. Like why out of everyone it was a student in a school uniform? Like I think that was when it crossed a lot of human rights violation and the sentiments of Nepali, that you killed our son. It could be any of our children, because so many Gen Zs and not just Gen Zs, youths went without even like telling their parents or like lying to parents. It could have been any of us. So I think that's what, like, because Nepal as a society that is like, it really cares about children and minors and such things. So the next day, everybody was like raised up because of what the government did the day earlier, with no apology, with no formally addressing the situation. Then everybody just went on the streets and burned the institution, chased the politicians away, like threw their money, burned their money that was like stacked in their homes. So that happened, and we went to a power vacuum. And then there was a lot of discussion about, okay, who is the Gen Z leader? Okay, what to do now? Like, is monarchy gonna take over, or is the US gonna take over from any, like, or any external forces gonna come over through any of the borders, or just gonna fly and like take over? So a lot of fears were at that time. And yeah, the couple of days were very interesting, because power vacuum, and it like kind of threatened everything that us as indigenous Gen Zs or indigenous communities threatened. It was like, oh no, so is king gonna come back? Oh no, are they gonna is any certain religion like gonna take over, and it's not, we will lose our secularism? Okay, will they throw out the federalism that there is in Nepal? So that's where indigenous concern grew in a national political transition. And that's how we stepped in as Indigenous Gen Z Collective.
Yes.
And we had hopes, because among Gen Zs we can find our position. It's a lot better, and it's the ladders, the heavy unwanted bureaucracy has been eliminated. So we knew that we can step in, we can find negotiation spaces, and then we went in, and the rest is history.
I love that. I love this story. Sabnam, during this time, were you afraid for your safety?
Surprisingly not. And like, some of our brothers used to say that you girls are stupid for like just going in like spaces where there are just men's, and just they're like gathered and they're discussing, and we would like just barge in and like, no, we need every people represented in this negotiation. Where is this happening? And they were like, this, why are you here? What's the purpose? Like, you guys are like so unnecessary at this point of national crisis. And trust me, and also a question, why were we all girls at that time? Where are indigenous boys or just men in general who would support us? So when we talk about, I think, indigenous feminisms or just indigenous movement itself, we talk a lot about matriarchy and how our societies have like liberal, we are liberal in terms of like gender roles. And it's like, where were they? Because we were alone, and our brother and some of our relatives called us like, you girls are stupid to like just jump in the spaces where like the big men from like the dominant caste, dominant communities. Yeah,
I think that is one of the most inspirational pieces, is that no one made room for you. You made room for yourselves as indigenous feminist
like
women.
Infiltrated, or like, just, hey, what is happening? We want to be here.
And so I think this is a very good roadmap for other indigenous youth, other indigenous women. I've always been inspired by Sabnam's work. I've always been inspired by how you are effective. You are not disrespectful, but you are firm in the fact that you want self-determination. You are very clear in that you deserve a role at the table, and not as just a token. That the actual, I mean, you being at the table and being, I mean, and so I always go back to how indigenous organizations, NGOs, we're observers. And what I really like about Gen Z is they're pushing that. You don't want to be observers. You want to be actors. And able to be determining what our future will be, not just observers watching member states dictate what our future will be. I really admire how this movement, the Indigenous Gen Z Collective, was able to step in and mobilize. And I feel like this intergenerational work that whether it be like, the work that you and I are doing together with Indigenous Environmental Network, and I feel like it's the synergy between it is really powerful in that we are learning from each other, and that is what community building is all about, being able to learn from each other's stories of resistance. And I feel like in this current climate, finding hope in anything we can is so powerful, and also sharing messages of hope is so powerful. There's a saying in my tribe that there's always, and until the last breath, there is hope. And I feel like a lot of people are feeling like situations in the world right now are very hopeless. But I also think that Indigenous peoples have faced apocalypse after apocalypse. Our world has changed over and over and over again due to colonialism, due to imperialism, and yet here we are. Here I am as a 51 Bitterroot Salish youth, or say it's not a youth, but as I jokingly say young elder, but I am not that. I find that my story, my people's story, is that we were forcibly relocated in 1891 to a reservation. That was our own apocalypse. We had to live in a totally different environment away from our home. We were removed at gunpoint, and we had to try to assimilate in so many different ways. Our children were taken, kidnapped, and forced into what we call concentration camps. They called them boarding schools by the Catholic Church. And so what I find is our stories of resilience, resistance, and hope are so powerful. And Subnam, I just want to thank you for making the trip from Nepal, and it's such an honor to have you in our delegation. It's an honor to have you share your story with us, because once again, the voices of the youth and how you navigate these types of spaces that don't want you there is one of the most inspirational stories for me, because a lot of times doors are shut. A lot of times we don't have the opportunity to get in there. We find ways. We either break that door down or we find another door to get in. And so thank you. I mean, and if you have anything else you want to share with our audience, please do.
Something to add is that about hope and liberation, when we emerged as this Indigenous Genz collective, as it was the demand of the political time, right? We also don't like because it's cliche to say Gen Z, but it is what it is. Gen Z and the Gen Z protest has changed. The government has made Nepal go into this new era. And at the first week, when there was the power vacuum and the army chief was searching for, okay, who are the Gen Zs and stuff like that, and many people were emerging as, okay, I'm the leader, this and that, and there was a lot of things happening. Then our community members, a lot of people from the Indigenous rights movement were looking for, oh no, okay, there are Gen Z leaders, but do we have our Indigenous Gen Zs there? Okay, we are really worried, because whatever we have achieved, whatever we are able to ensure in the Constitution with everything, it could be gone, and we really want our Indigenous Gen Z. So when we emerged, they were really relieved, because a lot of people have come okay, when I knew that you guys emerged, then we took a backseat. It's we were relieved. Okay, now we have Indigenous Gen Zs, and they are not just Indigenous by their last name, but they are very clear in terms of how to what stake do we have in the movement, in the Gen Z, because it's a national issue, right? It talks about anti-corruption things, but not directly Indigenous rights or Indigenous issues. So it was that. And I also want to share an interesting thing. I think it will help other youths or just people to maybe navigate their own advocacy journey or their own negotiation with the government, is that when we were looking for negotiation spaces, many people disregarded us. And so So yeah, and in also in Nepal, it's not that everybody understands like what indigenous is, or
Yeah.
like what rights indigenous people inherently have, and how they should be respected, and our role in the nation building process itself. So they had a complete disregard as, why are you bringing this caste thing in at such a national crisis? And there is already not a Gen Z group or a Gen Z one face leader, and you guys are just adding a bunch of stuffs. You guys are like not you are like just disrupting the Gen Z unity and everything that there is. But we knew that we could not just go directly and talk about self-determination, UN rape, ILO 169, because those people don't understand. Because sadly, yeah, Nepal does not know, the general people do not know about our rights and what it really means to be us, and like to have our like autonomy. So we started with like, okay, we have entered a national building process, and whenever a nation is built, its people needs to be represented, and we are 35%. We have been very important in the nation's building process, so we need to be in the dialogue space. See, we need to be in the negotiation space. And if all of us are do care about secularism, federalism, democracy, then it's for marginalized communities. That is more important, because others think that federalism is just like a geographical division for like a better power distribution, or like for a smooth administrative task. It's not that. It means a lot in terms of our autonomy, and the provinces means like, okay, we might be able to like get our own identification on the basis of our ethnicity. So we were, because at that time, since it was power vacuum and everybody feared of like foreign affairs taken in, maybe we might have monarchy, so we were able to take those things. You fear those things and you really want to protect these things, but you know these things are more promoted and more like necessary for our community, so we need to be there. Yeah. And I think, if I don't know if you're at the towards the end of the conversation. Yeah, so I think as indigenous women throughout the journey, we tried a lot to integrate care for each other. Like, if we are really burned out and not feeling like it, then let's not go to protest. Let's sometimes just skip, because we also matter, and we always had tried our best to have this accountability among us. And even like if we even called out each other, and we were okay, because to really understand a community is not just a bunch of people and we just do yay, okay, good thing, yeah, celebration, but we also like have some bitter times, right? So I think as women, as girls, we were able to do that, because and a lot of important role in peace building and settling things without using guns or like physical violence. Yeah, it is what it is. So few things that I would like to highlight what we brought into our own practice as indigenous girls.
I think that's extremely powerful. I really, once again, will emphasize how beautiful I think that you mentioned self-care. I think that in this movement, the urgency of the movement, I mean, you were in a revolution, and I think that it was really good to hear you say that even in the middle of a revolution, there was still an attempt to practice self-care. Unfortunately, we see a lot of sisters in this movement working themselves to the bone, and to the point where their health is affected. And I would, one of the things I want to change in this is that we have got to start prioritizing ourselves. We put our community, we put our family, we put the urgency of the movement ahead of our own self. And so I think that we definitely need to take care of ourselves. And sometimes that's taking a step back. And it's also really important to have the knowledge that if we take a break, others will step in. So I feel like that power sharing, I don't even like the word power sharing, but being able to be equitable with these roles, so that if someone in a leadership position wants to step back for a little bit, others can step in. And that's one of the things I found very inspiring as well is that there is space made for self-care. And I
Yes.
feel like in this movement, we need to take care of ourselves. We are the only person that can take care of ourselves. And I've seen a lot of sisters pass away in their 50s because they have been going so hard and so fast, and they have put everything in, before their own health, before their own mental health, spiritual health. And so I find everything about what you said very inspiring, and I hope that myself and others can continue to work with you and learn from you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And I'm really, this permanent forum has been like really a bit of homely and everything because of clear support and because of everyone and because of yeah, it's already it permanent forum is our indigenous relatives, so it always feels better than other spaces. And I have you, and I have Remy, and I have Ian's team, and just every one of you. So thank you so much. And I think at the end, yeah, hope, liberation, change, peace comes with indigenous girls and indigenous Gen Zs
Yes.
and indigenous women. So are you ready to give us space and like take a backseat or like work together?
I am. I just also want to say thank you to Cultural Survival. This media zone is extremely important. This platform is extremely important. The work that goes into the media zone in the United Nations Permanent Forum is an incredible amount of work. And so I want to thank the staff of Cultural Survival for putting this on. It is one of the most important platforms here, and so thank you so much, Cultural Survival, for letting us take part, and thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing